What's going on, Trash Talkers? We're back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to give you our starts and sits for Week 3 of Fantasy of the NFL season. All that and much more coming your way right now! Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for coming back. As always, we are joined by the Fantasy 4-Pack, and this week it is Frankie joining us. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out. They are on YouTube. They are a fantasy football channel. They provide content throughout the week, so you can learn about waivers, you can learn about upsides, downsides, and Franks, you want to tell us a little bit more about what you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much cover it, though. I mean, we kind of just do a little bit of everything. Every week we have we go through all the games, kind of highlight players, highlight matchups, stuff like that. We have a roster show where we talk about trades, waivers, just players trade away, players, maybe stash. But yeah, no, I mean, you pretty much hit on everything. I mean, you've done this with Matt and Ian, so yeah, it's it's good to be here.
Absolutely. And as I always say, I've known these guys for a long time. Their acuity when it comes to fantasy football is higher than some of those guys you'll see on ESPN and NFL Network. So definitely give these guys a listen because they definitely deserve it. All right. So what we're all here for is the starts and sits of the week. So let's get to it. Nick, why don't you start us off with your quarterback start?
Yeah, so my start of the week is going to be Daniel Jones. I took a look at this matchup, and they're facing the Atlanta Falcons. And last week we saw the Atlanta Falcons absolutely get demolished by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, you're saying to yourself, yeah, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but when you look at these offenses, I think both are very high powered. The New York Giants have a lot of wide receiver talent for Daniel Jones to work with. And now you're looking at an Atlanta secondary that is now depleted with A.J. Terrell out due to concussion. So you're going to see Kenny Golladay get going with Daniel Jones. You're going to see Sterling Shepard get more into the picture, and Darius Slayton still there. There are so many weapons for Daniel Jones to work with. We saw him perform really well against Washington last week. I think he's going to capitalize on that, and he's going to have another big performance against Atlanta this week.
Awesome. And Franks, who you got starting?
Let me just say, I really do like the Daniel Jones start. I think this Giants offense is, they're not getting enough respect. But my start of the week is actually Matt Stafford. He's looked great out there with Cooper Kupp. If Robert Woods can get a little bit more involved, I mean, I think this offense is probably going to be, maybe the best passing offense in football. I mean, maybe Brady will taper off a little bit, but no, he's got back-to-back 300-yard games, back-to-back multiple touchdown games. I don't see this stopping anytime soon. The Bucks D is like sus. So, again, he the rapport that he has with Cooper Kupp is just looked phenomenal on the field. And if he can get, a couple of other guys going too, I think that the numbers are just going to keep. I think it's basically a 20-point floor with him.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's definitely something that if you're a Matt Stafford owner, you're looking for. And, I'm one of those guys, but I have to choose between Brady and Stafford. And obviously they're playing in the same game.
Yeah.
But, I've gone with Brady the first couple of weeks. I think Stafford might be the play here. And I know Daniel Jones is available on a lot of people's waiver wires, so I would go pick him up. Those are great starts.
Yeah.
How about your sits for the QBs?
Yeah, so I'm going with Baker Mayfield this week. I believe with the loss of Jarvis Landry, you're getting OBJ back, but I don't believe Odell Beckham Jr. and Baker have had the chemistry like Jarvis and Baker have had, and I just don't think that they're going to be on the same page in their first game together all season long. This is going to be a very slow passing game for the Cleveland Browns. They're facing the Chicago Bears, and I fully expect Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb to be the focal point. That's what Kevin Stefanski wants to get back to, a big running game. Baker Mayfield has made some mistakes, and I think Stefanski wants to limit his attempts with the depleted receiver set they have. So I expect a big run game from the Cleveland Browns, not so much a big passing game, and I think that's going to hurt Baker Mayfield against the Bears this week.
Yeah. So after week 1, my start of the week last week on our show was Jameis Winston. And if you guys haven't watched our show this week, I was very displeased with what I saw. I figured, the passing, we'd see a little more passing volume. We'd see, more yards and more touchdowns. He's capable, well, maybe less touchdowns because he threw 5 in game 1, but he's very capable of putting up those big numbers in all passing stats, including interceptions. But after what I saw last week, I mean, again, I said it on our show. I'm fading basically every Saints receiver other than, Kamara, who is, at this point, probably their best receiver too. But no, Winston hasn't looked good. And until I see the passing volume come up and until I see, him capable to lead a passing attack and not just leaning on the defense in the run, I'm not starting him.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think Jameis Winston going against this Patriots secondary that was able to intercept Zach Wilson 4 times. Jameis Winston, one of those guys that, he's susceptible to the interceptions
30 for 30.
Like we talked about. Right. I mean, if that doesn't tell you what you need to know, I don't know what will. So I like the Jameis Winston sit. And Nick, I'm with you too. Baker as well. Jarvis Landry being out. Odell being thrust into the lineup for the first time in a year and a half, not boding well for Baker Mayfield fans. So I like those sits a lot. All right, let's move over to the running backs. And Nick, why don't you get us started with your start of the week?
Yeah, so my start of the week is going to be Tyson Williams. I think this is a really big week for Tyson Williams. He's been getting an increase in carries week over week. I think that happens once again. When you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they have a lot of injuries right now, and one to Lamar Jackson that we have to watch out for. Now, he'll probably play in this game, but I think they're going to want to limit his running attack. They're going to use him more as a decoy to open up the true running backs, and Tyson Williams is a top 5 running back in yards per carry. So I think he's going to continue that against a depleted Detroit defense. You don't have Jamie Collins who's holding out. You don't have Jeff Okudah in the secondary. I think that this is just all around a poor defense they're facing, a strong offensive line for the Ravens that Tyson Williams has proven he can get a lot of yards per carry. I think that's going to be the case this week. I really expect a lot from Tyson Williams against the Lions.
So I'm going with Gaskin this week. The Raiders have looked okay on defense. Not great, not bad, but their run defense is still sus. I mean, we saw it last year, and they're without Tua. The passing attack under Brissett looks awful, and I really don't know which receivers are going to get volume, but I don't think that they're going to need. If they want to win the game, they're probably going to need to do that. But for me, it's going to be a defensive showing, and they're going to need to lean on Gaskin a lot harder. And he hasn't gotten super heavy volume lately, but I think that that's going to change now that Tua's gone, and Brissett's never been a running quarterback, so I think that a lot of the Tua carries or plays designed for Tua are going to go to Gaskin.
Yeah, when you have a change at the quarterback position, the number one opportunity for that quarterback is to dump off the ball, and who better than either Mike Gesicki or Myles Gaskin? Yeah. And I think Myles Gaskin's going to be the guy because Jacoby Brissett comes from New England, where dumping off to your running backs is almost second nature at the quarterback position. So I understand that, and I like Myles Gaskin here. And I think Tyson Williams is going to get a lot of opportunities, even with Ronnie Stanley being out for the Ravens. I think that, they're going to rely on this running game. They're going to try to control the time of possession, especially with all the issues they're dealing with on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to want to keep the ball on their side. Lamar Jackson's going to have to rely on this running game a little bit more than they normally do, which is odd to say, but nonetheless, I like the start of Tyson Williams. All right, why don't we go with our sits?
Yeah, so my set of the week is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that he had a massive fumble last week that cost the Kansas City Chiefs the game. And when you look at Andy Reid, he's an old school head coach, and we've seen from the old school head coaches, they're not playing these guys who are fumbling the ball. They're holding them back. CH has already had a limited carries per game so far, and I think Andy Reid wants to prove a point. He's going to hold him out. He'd rather use his other running backs to prove a point to CH. Say he needs to hold on to the ball no matter what, especially in those pivotal moments. So I think this is just a bad week to start him. I expect a big air attack from Kansas City against their division rival, the Los Angeles Chargers. I just don't like the matchup for CEH this week.
Yeah, so my set of the week's going to be Mike Davis. To put it nicely, this Falcons offense hasn't been functioning. And like when you got this as a 6th round pick, you thought, I mean, you weren't going for those stellar numbers, but I was expecting more than, let's just go back real quick. 8 points, 9 points. No, I don't want that as somebody who's probably my RB3. And I mean, the rushing volume for him isn't there. He's gotten 15 carries, he's gotten 9 carries. He does a little bit of work in the receiving game, but I mean, we're not seeing this off. The offensive line looks terrible, and like I just think that they need to find something to do. I don't think they're going to get the work done against the Giants on the ground. I think it's going to be through the air, and even then, I mean, they might not even be able to do that because this Giants defense has looked good. This Atlanta offense has looked terrible. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game.
Yeah, I feel like Mike Davis has just become anemic. And honestly, when I saw that Arthur Smith was going to be the head coach of the Falcons, I really thought that Mike Davis, or whoever their running back was going to be, was really going to benefit from a run-first approach that Arthur Smith had in Tennessee. Now it just shows that he saw you at Derrick Henry and just abused that power, and he has gotten away from what got him this head coaching job. So Mike Davis really not a good opportunity to start right now, so I like him sitting a lot. All right, let's move over to the wide receivers, and Nick, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, so my start of the week at wide receiver is going to be Hollywood Brown, backing up with another Ravens player. I really like the matchup this week. As I said with Tyson Williams, part of the defense is they're missing Jeff Okudah, who's out for the year. That is their number one corner, their number 2 overall pick last year. Their second guy is he's a nobody. He's not somebody that's going to be able to stop Hollywood Brown. This is not going to be a secondary that can keep up with him. He is the main target for the Baltimore Ravens right now, and he has a touchdown in each game so far this season. I think he keeps that up. I think there's going to be a lot of deep balls coming his way. I think that Lamar Jackson is going to continue to try to prove himself as a passing quarterback in this league, especially against this defense. I think that they're both going to have tremendous success, and I really like Hollywood Brown as a start.
Yeah, so I'm going with another guy who actually has back-to-back touchdowns touchdowns in back-to-back games. But he also has 80-plus yards to his name, too. Mike Williams. He is going to be in an absolute shootout with KC this week because, I mean, we've seen KC let up points back-to-back games. Their secondary, while, there are some names out there, have looked sus, and they're definitely vulnerable over the top, and that's definitely where Mike Williams thrives. And on top of that, it seems like in LA, they're not even using him as just that deep ball threat anymore. They're using him just, when Keenan Allen can't get open, he's coming across the middle on some slants, going on some outside routes. It's, he's looked really good. He's looking like he's had the best quarterback he's ever had. And he's one of my starts of the week too. It's like, it's so easy with a guy like that going against a defense that is just going to let up points.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll start it with Marquis Brown. Nick, I think you're right. Hollywood Brown has been he's been the biggest beneficiary of the overhaul they've made on this offense so far. And adding the guys that they did has opened him up significantly. And, I've always said that he was going to struggle as a number 1 wide receiver. Well, now the burden is not on his shoulders completely. It's opened him up significantly, and him playing in the slot has opened him up so much more. I think they're going to continue to do that. He is obviously Lamar Jackson's number 1 weapon in the passing game, so I really like that. And then on the flip side, Mike Williams, a guy that I targeted in every single fantasy draft that I had. I really like the upside on this guy, and I know the Chargers have been looking to get him more involved. He cannot just be the deep ball guy like he used to be. That's how he got hurt. If you're using him over the middle, he's a big body that can out-position defenders, and what he's able to do on the football field can't go unnoticed, especially opposite Keenan Allen. So with Herbert at the helm, he is definitely going to be the beneficiary of some really good numbers. All right, and what do you guys have for your sits for the wide receivers?
Yeah, so my sit for wide receiver might be a surprise. It's going to be Terry McLaurin against the Buffalo Bills this week. I don't like the matchup. You have Washington going into Buffalo, and Terry McLaurin's one-on-one with Tre'Davious White. A very tough matchup. If Tre'Davious White can't get the job done, they still have Levi Wallace with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer in the secondary. There are so many big-name players on this defense that are going to be around Terry McLaurin the entire game. I just don't like the matchup. I think that he's going to have limited attempts. They're going to force Taylor Heineke to work with the other weapons around him, take away the number 1 target. We saw the connection with Terry and Taylor last week. I think that they're going to try to mitigate that. They're going to try to force him to go to Logan Thomas, go to Cam Sims, these other guys that he doesn't have the same rapport with. It's going to be a very tough matchup for Terry this week.
Yeah, my start of the week is going to be Michael Pittman at Tennessee. So obviously, we all saw Carson Wentz go down last week, injured both of his legs somehow. But apparently, he's already practicing. I don't care. Even if he plays the game, the Colts have always been your traditional, we're going to play, tough defense and we're going to run the ball down your throat with Jonathan Taylor. And, I mean, very quiet game one, 4 targets. He got hyper targeted in game 2, so I don't really know what to expect from, Michael Pittman going into this game. There's not really a basis to go off of. We've seen 2 ends of the spectrum. He's in an offense that wants to run the ball and play defense. And, I mean, the way that, Tennessee's offense has been functioning too. It's been hard. It's been looking like it's hard for them to put up points minus, the Derrick Henry game last week. But no, it's like I don't think they're going to put up enough points to where the Colts are going to have to throw the ball.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and only Carson Wentz can injure, both of his legs at the same time. I mean, there's not really anybody else.
And then come back to practice today, I guess.
Right. I don't understand. This guy has to be Gumby at this point, just taking shots left and right, and he can just walk away. But at the end of the day, Michael Pittman is just one of those guys that I'm trying to stay away from until I see more consistency coming from the Indianapolis Colts as a whole. I mean, even Jonathan Taylor has seen some dips in his performance, and Nyheim Hines has been in, but he's also not been readily available, and there's just so many question marks surrounding this team as a whole that I need them to figure it out before I'm willing to start anybody on their side. And Nick, I think you had it right. Terry McLaurin against Tre'Davious White. That's pretty much all you need to say in Buffalo, right? So McLaurin, Heineke, while that's going to be a good connection moving forward, right now I think that's going to be one of the harder ones to predict, and I'm not willing to bet my fantasy week on Terry McLaurin getting open. So I like both of those sits, and as always, we don't do defenses here, so let's finish it up with the tight ends. And who do you guys have for starts of the week?
Yeah, so my start of the week, I really like Noah Fant. I think that this is a great matchup against the New York Jets. We saw guys like Noah Fant, Darren Waller go off against the Jets last year. I expect the same thing again this year because you have so many injuries to that defense. The linebacking core is not there. CJ Mosley is a run stopper. He's not going to be in coverage with Noah Fant. They don't have a safety that can keep up with Noah Fant. I think that there's going to be a lot of open plays for him. I like the way that Teddy Bridgewater has been targeting him, and I think that it's going to be a big week for Noah against the New York Jets. I'm expecting a lot from the Broncos and the tight end position.
So unfortunately, we have Dallas Goddard going up against my Cowboys, and no, for the amount of picks that we've had this year so far, against Brady and whoever else, our defense has still looked very sus, and the middle of the field is usually pretty open. And Goddard's that guy who, I mean, we saw it last year. He had that unfortunate PI call where he just had a huge touchdown. And I think that, this Cowboys defense is capable of letting up those huge touchdowns through the air, especially if you have guys coming over the top too, like Devonta Smith or, any of their other wideouts. It's, our front seven has looked decent, and Sanders is going in banged up if he's going in. I think that this is, Goddard's, fantasy points to lose, I guess is the best way to put it. He hasn't been getting a super ton of targets lately, but, he's had a touchdown. He's had, respectable tight end targets. And I like him this week.
Listen, I fully expect that Devonta Smith and Quez Watkins, these guys are going to get locked down. And with Zach Ertz missing all of the week from practice because he was placed on the COVID list, they did just activate him, but he's not going to have the reps with Jalen Hurts to really get this thing off the ground. So I think Dallas Goddard is going to be the sole beneficiary. And like you said, Franks, the middle of the field is going to be open. With Micah Parsons coming off the edge now, he's not in the middle of the field roaming like they once had because DeMarcus Lawrence is out. So they had to reposition him, and that's opening up things for tight ends going against the Dallas Cowboys defense. So I like the Dallas Goddard start a lot. And then, Nick, you had Noah Fant. I mean, what more to say is there than that he's going against the New York Jets, right? No safeties, no corners are going to cover this guy. The linebackers are just anemic at this point, and there's not much I can say besides Noah Fant is one of the favorite targets that Teddy Bridgewater has, and he's going to stay that way, especially this week. All right, and before we wrap up the show, why don't you guys give us our sits of the tight end position?
Yeah, so my sit of the week, I mean, it's a tough one because there just are not enough tight ends to go around in general to sit one. But if you're going to stay away from one, I don't like Dalton Schultz against the Philadelphia Eagles. I know a lot of people want to have a piece of this Cowboys offense, but Dalton Schultz is not the guy to have. I think that they want to continue to work in Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard as the 1-2 punch to this offense. But then when they're throwing the ball, Dak Prescott's barely looking at the tight end position to begin with. He's really going to his wide receivers that he loves so much, and I just don't think that there are enough remaining targets to go around to Dalton Schultz. I just don't think he's going to get the red zone looks. He's not going to get a lot of yardage from his routes. It's just not a good play for Dalton Schultz against any team, really.
Yeah, so another guy that, I was kind of interested going into the season, Gerald Everett. I wondered what he was going to do in Seattle, and he's doing pretty much what I expected in an offense with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett that doesn't even want to use them. They want to run the ball. So, I mean, like back-to-back games, 2 targets, had his day, I guess, saved by a touchdown in the first game. But no, I would stay away from him. Again, you said Titan's a wasteland. It is. This isn't one of the guys that you want to bet your week on. I would say go out and, find somebody else if you're stuck with Gerald Everett right now.
I mean, tight end position is outside of, I'd say, even just the top 2 of Waller and Kelsey. You are in a big crapshoot because Kittle hasn't been doing anything. Kyle Pitts was expected to be what Waller tends to be right now. He's not even close in that Falcons offense, and everybody else is just falling on their face, and it's just kind of a week-to-week basis of who's going to play well, who's not. It's really just a toss-up at this point. But listen, Gerald Everett, I think, the Seattle Seahawks have never really loved their tight end position. Even when they had Jimmy Graham at tight end, they did not use him properly, and it seems like Pete Carroll figured out that you got to run the ball a little bit more if you're trying to win championships. But at the end of the day, I like I said, Dalton Schultz, another guy I'm going to try to stay away from. I like that pick a lot, Nick. But, if you don't have Kelsey and Waller, then you're just scrambling to find somebody who can hopefully put up a couple points for you.
Yeah, you're throwing darts at a board hoping somebody gets a touchdown.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Frankie, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today. I appreciate it. And you can catch us over there on their show. We will be on their 3 and Out show that comes out every Monday. And that'll be all for now. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. Peace and love.